Do do do.
Say this. If you want to have sensible gun reform, particularly if you want to protect our children, if you want to protect our schools, if you want to have the kinds of reform
what's up there
that you say you want to have, then let's have a dialogue bill by bill, item by item. And if we do that, at least we won't have so many statements made as to the intent. And I heard it on both sides, the intent of one versus the other. Mr. Chairman, I do not believe that your motives are anything other than trying to find solutions. Mr. Jordan, I don't believe your motives are anything but wanting to find solutions. I'm deeply saddened that we didn't find solutions here today, that every single vote came down on party lines. I hope the next time we have a markup on a bill, the next time we even have a hearing on a bill, that we will all do better. With that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your indulgence.
Would you yield, Mr. Issa? Mr. Issa, would you
It comes on the heels of several
Of
high-profile
course,
mass shootings
thank you
that
so
have
very
killed
much.
dozens of people in just the last few weeks.
That we have, and I just raise it as an inquiry.
We wait for
have
Biden
the
to
loved
get in.
ones of dead Americans who died at the hands of gun violence and died at the hands of perpetrators who may have mental illness. But let me not characterize it, because that's a small percentage. But there are families, there are parents who are mourning. They need answers. These are well thought out initiatives, and I would hope you would consider them.
Reclaiming my time, I think this is where Mr. Massey was repeatedly accurate in giving us facts and figures on what we would or would not accomplish here. So hopefully when Mr. Massey is in the majority,
that progress is being made. But the nation has been down this road before, with pushes for legislation after Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Parkland all falling short. The president is walking up to the podium. Let's listen in.
On Memorial Day this past Monday, Jill and I visited Arlington National Cemetery. As we entered those hallowed grounds, we saw rows and rows of crosses among the rows of headstones with other emblems of belief, honoring those who paid the ultimate price on battlefields around the world. The day before, we visited Uvalde, Texas. In front of Robb Elementary School, we stood before 21 crosses for 19 third and fourth graders and 2 teachers. On each cross, a name, and nearby, a photo of each victim that Jill and I reached out to touch. Innocent victims murdered in a classroom that have been turned into a killing field. Standing there in that small town, like so many other communities across America, I couldn't help but think there are too many other schools, too many other everyday places that have become killing fields, battlefields here in America. We stood at such a place just 12 days before, across from a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, memorializing 10 fellow Americans, a spouse, a parent, a grandparent, a sibling, gone forever. At both places, we spent hours with hundreds of family members who were broken, whose lives will never be the same. They had one message for all of us: do something. Just do something. For God's sake, do something. After Columbine, after Sandy Hook, after Charleston, after Orlando, after Las Vegas, after Parkland, nothing has been done. This time, that can't be true. This time, we must actually do something. The issue we face is one of conscience and common sense. For so many of you at home, I want to be very clear. This is not about taking away anyone's guns. It's not about vilifying gun owners. In fact, we believe we should be treating responsible gun owners as an example of how every gun owner should behave. I respect the culture and the tradition and the concerns of lawful gun owners. At the same time, The Second Amendment, like all other rights, is not absolute. It was Justice Scalia who wrote, and I quote, "Like most rights, the Second Amendment, the rights granted by the Second Amendment are not unlimited." Not unlimited.
Word
It never has been.
He says that, we're screaming.
There have always been limitations on what weapons you can own in America. For example, machine guns have been federally regulated for nearly 90 years, and this is still a free country. This isn't about taking away anyone's rights. It's about protecting children. It's about protecting families. It's about protecting whole communities. It's about protecting our freedoms to go to school, to a grocery store, to a church, without being shot and killed. According to new data just released by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, guns are the #1 killer of children in the United States of America. The #1 killer. More than car accidents, more than cancer.
Yeah, 90 years doesn't sound like always,
does it? In the last 2 decades, more school-age children have died from guns than on-duty police officers and active-duty military combined. Think about that. More kids than on-duty cops killed by guns. More kids than soldiers killed by guns. For God's sake.
So let's protect them.
How much more carnage are we willing to accept? How many more innocent American lives must be taken before we say enough, enough? I know that we can't prevent every tragedy, but here's what I believe we have to do. Here's what the overwhelming majority of American people believe we must do. Here's what the families in Buffalo and Uvalde in Texas told us we must do. We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And if we can't ban assault weapons, then we should raise the age to purchase them.
What's an assault weapon? What is an assault weapon?
Strengthen background checks. Enact safe storage law and red flag laws. Repeal the immunity that protects gun manufacturers from liability. Address the mental health crisis, deepening the trauma of gun violence and as a consequence of that violence. These are rational, common sense measures. Here's what it all means. It all means this. We should reinstate the assault weapons ban on high-capacity magazines that we passed in 1994 with bipartisan support in Congress and the support of law enforcement. 9 categories of semi-automatic weapons were included in that ban, like AK-47s and AR-15s. And in the 10 years it was law, mass shootings went down. But after Republicans let the law expire in 2004, and those weapons were allowed to be sold again, mass shootings tripled. Those are the facts. A few years ago, the family of the inventor of the AR-15
correlation equals causation.
said he would have been horrified to know that its design was being used to slaughter children
Hey, thanks,
and other
Totino.
innocent lives instead of being used as a military weapon on the battlefields, as it was designed. That's what it was designed for. Enough.
Weapons of war?
We should limit how many rounds a weapon can hold. Why, in God's name, should an ordinary citizen be able to purchase an assault weapon
I swear,
that
if it
holds
says Kevlar
30-round
vest, I'm going to lose it.
magazines that let mass shooters fire hundreds of bullets in a matter of minutes?
30 rounds, hundreds.
The damage was so devastating in Uvalde, parents had to do DNA swabs to identify the remains of their children. 9 and 10-year-old children. Enough. We should expand background checks to keep guns out of the hands of felons, fugitives, and those under restraining orders. Stronger background checks are something that the vast majority of Americans, including the majority of gun owners, agree on.
Like your son.
I also believe we should have safe storage laws and personal liability for not locking up your gun. The shooter in Sandy Hook came from a home full of guns. They were too easy to access. That's how he got the weapons. The weapon he used to kill his mother and then murdered 26 people, including 20 first graders. If you own a weapon, you have a responsibility to secure it. Every responsible gun owner agrees to make sure no one else can have access to it. to lock it up, to have trigger locks. And if you don't, and something bad happens, you should be held responsible. We should also have national red flag laws so that a parent, a teacher, a counselor can flag for a court that a child, a student, a patient is exhibiting violent tendencies, threatening classmates, or experiencing suicidal thoughts. It makes them a danger to themselves or to others. 19 states in the District of Columbia have red flag laws. The Delaware law is named after my son, Attorney General Beau Biden.
Not
Fort
Hunter.
Hood, Texas,
Never Hunter.
2009.
Never Hunter.
13 dead and more than 30 injured. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, 2018. 17 dead, 17 injured. In both places, countless others suffering with invisible wounds. Red flag laws could have stopped both these shooters. In Uvalde, the shooter was 17 when he asked his sister to buy him an assault weapon, knowing he'd be denied because he was too young to purchase one himself. She refused. But as soon as he turned 18,
I thought it was a handgun.
he purchased 2 assault weapons for himself. Because in Texas, you can be 18 years old and buy an assault weapon, even though you can't buy a pistol in Texas until you're 21. If we can't ban assault weapons, as we should, we must at least raise the age to be able to purchase one to 21.
What is an assault weapon?
Look, I know some folks will say 18-year-olds can serve in the military and fire those weapons. But that's with training and supervision by the best trained experts in the world. Don't tell me raising the age won't make a difference. Enough. We should repeal the liability shield that often protects gun manufacturers from being sued for the death and destruction caused by their weapons. They're the only industry in this country that has that kind of immunity. Imagine if the tobacco industry had been immune from being sued, where we'd be today. The gun industry's special protections are outrageous. It must end. And let there be no mistake about the psychological trauma that gun violence leaves behind. Imagine being that little girl, that brave little girl in Uvalde, who smeared blood off her murdered friend's body onto her own face to lie still among the corpses in her classroom and pretend she was dead in order to stay alive. Imagine what it'd be like for her to walk down the hallway of any school again. Imagine what it's like for children who experience this kind of trauma every day in school, in the streets, in communities all across America. Imagine what it's like for so many parents to hug their children goodbye in the morning, not sure whether they'll come back home. Unfortunately, too many people don't have to imagine that at all. Even before the pandemic, young people were already hurting. There's a serious youth mental health crisis in this country. We have to do something about it.
You guys made it worse.
That's why mental health is the heart of my unity agenda that I laid out in the State of the Union address this year. We must provide more school counselors, more school nurses, more mental health services for students and for teachers, more people volunteering as mentors to help young people succeed, more privacy protection and resources to keep kids safe from the harms of social media. This unity agenda won't fully heal the wounded souls, but it will help. It matters. I just told you what I'd do. The question now is, what will the Congress do? The House of Representatives already passed key measures we need. Expanding background checks to cover nearly all gun sales, including at gun shows and online sales.
Which
Getting
you already
rid of the
have.
loophole allows a gun sale to go through after 3 business days, even if the background check has not been completed. And the House is planning even more action next week. Safe storage requirements, the banning of high-capacity magazines, raising the age to buy an assault weapon to 21, federal red flag law, codifying my ban on ghost guns that don't have serial numbers and can't be traced.
There's the ghost gun thing. Just going to throw it in there.
Laws to prevent gun trafficking and straw purchases. This time, we have to take the time to do something. And this time, it's time for the Senate to do something. But as we know, In order to get anything done in the Senate, we need a minimum of 10 Republican senators. I support the bipartisan efforts that include a small group of Democrats and Republican senators trying to find a way.
Blame Congress.
But my God, the fact that the majority of the Senate Republicans don't want any of these proposals even to be debated.
Because you guys throw in stuff with bills, always.
I find unconscionable. We can't fail the American people again. Since Uvalde, just over a week ago, there have been 20 other mass shootings in America, each with 4 or more people killed or injured, including yesterday at a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A shooter deliberately targeted a surgeon using an assault weapon he bought just a few hours before his rampage that left a surgeon, another doctor, a receptionist, and a patient dead and many more injured.
It's freaking crazy.
That doesn't count the carnage we see every single day. It doesn't make the headlines. I've been in this fight for a long time. I know how hard it is, but I'll never give up. And if Congress fails, I believe this time a majority of the American people won't give up either. I believe the majority of you will act to turn your outrage into making this issue central to your vote. Enough, enough, enough. Over the next 17 days, the families in Uvalde will continue burying their dead. It will take that long in part because it's a town where everyone knows everyone. And day by day, they will honor each one they lost. Jill and I met with the owner and staff of the funeral home as being strong to take care of their own. And the people of Uvalde mourn as they do over the next 17 days. What will we be doing as a nation? Jill and I met with the sister of the teacher who was murdered and whose husband died of a heart attack 2 days later, leaving behind 4 beautiful orphan children, all now orphaned. The sister asked us, what could she say? What could she tell her nieces and nephews? It's the most heartbreaking moments that I can remember. All I could think to say was, I told her to hold them tight. Hold them tight. After visiting the school, we attended Mass at Sacred Heart Catholic Church with Father Eddie. In the pews, families and friends held each other tightly. As Archbishop Gustavo spoke, he asked the children in attendance to come up on the altar and sit in the altar with him as he spoke. There wasn't enough room, so Mom and her young son sat next to Jill and me in the first pew. And as we left the church, a grandmother who had just lost her granddaughter passed me a handwritten letter. It read, quote, erase the invisible line that is dividing our nation. Come up with a solution and fix what's broken and make the changes that are necessary to prevent this from happening again. End of quote. My fellow Americans.
That's a long note. I don't believe it. Show us the note.
Enough. It's time for each of us to do our part. It's time to act for the children we've lost, for the children we can save, for the nation we love. Let's hear the call and the cry. Let's meet the moment. Let us finally do something. God bless the families who are hurting. God bless you all. From a hymn based on the 91st Psalm sung in my church.
Okay.
May he raise you up on eagle's wings and bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun and hold you in the palm of his hand. That's my prayer for all of you. God bless you.
Mr. President, how many candles are around you?
And we've just been listening to President Biden speak on the epidemic of gun violence in.
What are you guys' thoughts? Get in the chat. Let me know. What are your thoughts on that speech? I mean, oh, please. Dude, First of all, I'm mad that he didn't say my word of the day, weapons of war. He didn't say this, and that just makes me angry. You changed it up on me. You know, I mean, my thoughts are purely, it's never a good time. Thoughts and prayers, that helps. Okay. Mom dunks. You feel like that is like a gotcha statement. I love it. Thoughts and prayers wasn't so stupid. Whatever it takes to get the heat off his son, right? Exactly. What do you mean? The son that also lied about his background check and then threw a gun in a trash can right next to the school? Yeah. That son. He's also a drug addict, so I do give him a break for that because he's freaking on drugs, but the media pretends like not. Okay. I can't tell if you're genuine or not.
Issue right now, and that is important because that's not being discussed on Capitol Hill. So putting into the conversation what he would hope for, but also trying to put something perhaps more pragmatic. Also trying to set a reassuring tone to those who...
Blaming an inanimate object for the reason people are dying is ridiculous. But this is what happens when you allow emotion to overtake you when horror happens. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say because when you see evil on its face, pure evil, you try to come up with the answers. And they're coming up with the easiest answer, which is, well, if we just get rid of guns, then all of a sudden everyone's going to be sweet and nice. It's like these guns are drawing people in to actually shoot other people. It's just silly. It's like someone getting in a car accident and someone blaming the car manufacturer for that drunk driver going around and killing a bunch of people. It's just, and that's why like conservatives or like people like Republicans or libertarians or anarchists or whatever, or far leftists, just see this as just a ploy to get more government control. It's like, it's the same thing. They did the same thing in COVID. If it saves one life, we have to shut down everything. We have to do all this stuff. If it saves one person, how dare you say otherwise? But what did we learn in the end? There's no other choice. They cannot blame drug. Exactly. As long as it fits the narrative, they'll say it, you know? And people will read into Joe Biden's like emotional pleas, and I don't, because I think he's just a politician who will say anything and do anything in order to push his agenda forward. And if it fits the narrative, they will say it. And if you say otherwise, if you think he's genuine, I feel sorry for you because you don't pay attention. You don't know his history. You don't know his past. You don't know him making up an entire story, creating a whole fabricated story in order to be elected. I mean, this guy will say anything and do anything to be elected. It seems like 99 out of 100 times these are cases where someone was on meds. So oh gosh, let's not even get started on that. I mean, no one wants to have a conversation about, I would love to see the toxicology report on all these mass shootings. I'm curious. That's the kind of stuff you'll never see. You'll never see because it's easier to blame the gun. If it's easier to blame the object, you know, it makes it like, and people have like this hysteria behind an object, like it has a mind of its own. Like it looks at you in your face when you're depressed or sad or angry. It's like, come on, just use me, man. Just use me. As opposed to just sitting there and you make the choice. Because if we put the blame on the person actually doing it, maybe we have to have a conversation. What's his home life like? What kind of prescription drugs is he on? What's his school life like? What's like? And not only that, this guy was on, many of these shooters are on a lot of FBI watch lists. So what are they doing? You know, there's never a blame for them because they're the good guys. Trust them. It's the NRA. As if I know so many gun owners, they're like, I'm not part of the NRA, but they're voters. But no one wants to talk about those people. Everyone, again, it's just like politicians. They blame the NRA as if they have like the supreme power, as opposed to like individuals who see what goes around the world and know history and know that disarming a population is the first step towards an authoritarian dictatorship. Well, that's a trick. The toxicology is clean because they stopped taking. Okay, yeah, there you go. But we'll never have a real conversation. The only thing I did like what Joe Biden said is that we'll get more mentors in school. Love that idea. Great. I'm for that. When I was in education, I wish more parents, especially men, would push into schools and help me out with some of the bad kids. Because I never got to experience a lot of that. I didn't have a lot of men that saw that as an opportunity to serve. They wanted to just pick up their kids and stuff like that. That was a female thing in their eyes. So it's kind of sad. So I hope to see more of that. But to blame like high capacity and we're just putting band-aids on things of what they eventually want to do. I mean, it's the whole reason we saw Justin Trudeau come out and say, we're banning all 9mm cells. This whole thing, this whole push right now, it makes me feel like everyone's kind of on the same message. It's just kind of crazy. I never joined, but I saw when you signed up to get a sweet-looking backpack with the NRA logo. Yeah, I did see the sweet-looking NRA logo backpack. For those of you, I am live currently on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. So if I'm talking about saying something that you don't see in the chat, it's not that I'm going crazy. I did see the backpack. I did not get the backpack. Did you see the grandma who won 10K golden rifle at the convention? No, I did not see that. That's freaking hilarious. I'm not part of it. Like, I don't know. And the thoughts and prayers. I feel like that was a disingenuous quote. Whoever Mom Dutz. I feel like that's like a liberal thing right now. Liberal gotcha is like making fun of Christians. You know, they never make fun of Muslims, but they'll go after Christians. With thoughts and prayers. You can't stop horror by putting a Band-Aid on it. Disarming the population might put a halt to some things or slow down some things, but then that just gives the capacity for evil even greater by those who can perform the evil, because then that means that the average citizen can't defend against evil, but those that have the capacity to perform the evil will be able to have even greater effect. Like the cartel. I don't know. I've seen a lot of videos even today about cartel members going around with guns in their car all around America. No problem there. We don't want to talk about that, though. Or Eric Holder, you know. Don't want to talk about that. I feel like they're promoting her to take attention away from the protests outside. Oh, okay. Maybe, yeah. But that's all it is. I hope you guys enjoyed that speech. I'd rather us talk more seriously about problems. It's like blaming guns for the violence in Chicago. I'm not going to do that. I think there's a lot of other things that are the reason why Chicago is so incredibly violent. Not you just take guns, makes these hardened criminals even more criminal. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I know they always blame Gary, Indiana. It's like when I used to live in Chicago, that's all they talked about. Gary, Indiana is the problem. If we just stop Gary, Indiana. If I could see the future, they have taken away all weapons and cars. Technically, that problem would cut down on one issue. Yeah. I don't know. We're a silly population and not a serious population. We redefine words, we make words absolutely meaningless, and we blame inanimate objects for the problems in our country. Even though 100 years ago or whatever, just as many guns, just as open to get guns, people with guns everywhere, not the problem. But we want to make it seem like it's this new problem. Maybe the media stop showing pictures of these people, maybe not even reporting it. I don't know. Like, there are so many options out there that aren't on the table, or maybe more security. Of course, we're not going to talk about the teacher who left the freaking door open, or the cop that wasn't there, or the cops just sitting there waiting for people, waiting an hour before entering. Like, we don't want to have that conversation. We're just going to go after high capacity stuff. It's just so silly. We're just a silly population. Only automatic cars, they can use auto drive to the right jail. It's still on the road. Automatic cars. Well, if there's automatic cars, then we can blame the automatic cars for the reason for death and destruction. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. This was a silly thing, but I feel sorry for people who think over emotional speeches are genuine. I just do. You don't pay attention. You don't actually listen to the news or listen to politicians or watch what they do. They will say and do whatever it takes in order for their agenda to be pushed. And if there's an emotional story, they will use it. They will use you. They will use me. If you're a part of a traumatic event, they will use your story in order for their agenda to be pushed. I promise you. It's just so silly. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. I freaking love you guys. Bye.